Why would someone talk like that on a first date? Hi, my name is Natasza, and on this channel we talk about modern dating and relationships from a feminist point of view. I break down the small behaviours, the quiet entitlement, the emotional habits, and the subtle misogyny that so many women are taught to ignore. Every week I take a real dating or relationship story that's been submitted to me and break down the emotional dynamics. My goal is to help you see what's happening underneath the surface, not just what you've been told as a woman to tolerate. So if you think this is something that you might be interested in, then please make sure that you click the subscribe button. So today's story comes from MJ, and here's what MJ wrote. Dear Natty, I wanted to share this weird date I had last week because I can't tell if I'm overreacting or if something was actually off. So I met this guy on Hinge and he seemed normal enough. We go to this cute little restaurant and literally 10 minutes in, he says to me, "You're actually prettier in person. Your pictures don't really do you justice." I kind of froze. I didn't know if it was a compliment or an insult wrapped up in one, but I just smiled awkwardly. Then later, he looks at my dress and goes, "That's a cute outfit. I usually prefer when girls wear something more fitted, but that's fine." Again, I didn't know what to do with that. Then throughout the whole date, he kept making these little comments. So, for example, he said to me things like, "Most girls I date are really into fitness. You're funny, but not like clever funny, more like cute funny." By the time dessert came, I honestly felt like I was in a job interview, and he kept reminding me that I wasn't exactly what he usually goes for. Anyway, I left the date and felt weirdly deflated, like I suddenly wasn't good enough, even though I walked in feeling confident and put together. Am I overreacting? Am I reading too much into this? Why would someone talk like that on a first date? Please help. Okay, so first of all, this date was full of subtle put-downs and backhanded compliments, and we actually have a name for this type of behaviour. It's called negging, and it's a covert type of disrespect. It's basically designed to unsettle you and create some insecurity. So there's definitely a lot to unpack here about his motive, the effects on you, and also how to respond next time. So let's get straight into it. Okay, first of all, what you did right. I think it's amazing that you've picked up on the fact and were honest with yourself about the fact that this interaction fell off, because from everything that you've described, it really was. Noticing is always the first step, okay? Because many women would actually just end up internalizing that kind of disrespect and find excuses for it. You didn't, which is amazing, okay? So now just trust that gut feeling, okay? Because it's your internal compass in these kind of situations. Okay, so let's talk about the red flags here, okay? As we've mentioned, the biggest red flag here is the backhanded compliments and those subtle insults that you've experienced, which I've already mentioned is called negging. And negging is essentially designed to lower someone's confidence, so they end up seeking approval from the other person. Okay, so this is a covert manipulation tactic, okay? Those small, subtle comments may seem very small and minor in a moment and even give the guy some plausible deniability, but over time, they will cumulatively massively erode your confidence. So these comments, without a doubt, were designed to probe and measure your reaction, okay? And I think another huge red flag here is that you left the date feeling weird and off and doubting yourself. Also, that comment about him preferring women who wear tight dresses, okay, very sleazy, and he clearly objectifies women. Another huge red flag. So why did he do this, okay? This was not accidental, this was not random, this was not clumsy flirting on his part. Negging is a strategy used by insecure, validation-hungry men in order to try and create a power imbalance. Okay, these types of men can only feel powerful when a woman doubts herself, because if a woman feels slightly insecure, then she becomes more agreeable, she seeks his validation, she tries harder, she accepts less, and becomes much easier to control. He was most definitely trying to test how much disrespect you're willing to tolerate. He throws the small insult and then watches your reaction, looking for one of three things. Number one, you laugh it off, which basically tells him, great, she tolerates disrespect, I can push further. Number two, you get uncomfortable but stay polite and don't say anything. And that basically tells him, okay, she's insecure and clearly trying to impress me. And number three, you actually challenge her, okay? And this tells him, okay, she's not easy to manipulate, and he will likely move on. So this is definitely the category that I want to be in, okay? So if you're interested to find out how to challenge it in the moment, then make sure you stick around because I will be breaking that down in just a moment. So last thing I wanted to say is that underneath all this confidence and the jokes that aren't really jokes is someone who is very, very insecure and has a very fragile ego, okay? So never take it personally. It isn't about you. Okay, so moving on to the fun part. So how can you respond next time this happens to you? Okay, so first of all, I just want to start by saying that when you're met with that kind of situation, you're often taken by surprise because you're going out on a date hoping to meet someone who wants to build a connection, and instead you're met with someone who's trying to manipulate and control you from the get-go. So in those kind of moments, the most natural response, especially when you're unprepared, is to freeze. And unless you have some ammunition up your sleeve that you've rehearsed and thought about beforehand, it can be very difficult to just confront the guy in the moment. So I've prepared 3 questions for you that you can memorize and keep up your sleeve whenever you find yourself in a situation like that. Okay, so the first thing that you can say is, "That comment felt a bit off. What did you mean by that?" Or just simply ask him, "Why would you say something like that?" Or lastly, you can simply ask him, "Can you explain what you meant by that?" These 3 questions work really well because they immediately stop the subtle manipulation, okay? They put him on the spot and basically force him to either clarify, apologize, or reveal his true intentions. So last thing, what should you do next? I think the answer here is very simple, okay? You walk away immediately without looking back. There's no fixing this. He wants control, not a partnership, okay? And it's not your job to try and heal him or try and change him. So there you have it. That's my hot take on this dating story. And please make sure that you let me know in the comments what your thoughts are and if you would have done something differently. And as always, please make sure you give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this video.